I'm Flyin Brian J for MMAmania.com. UFC 205 is the most stacked UFC pay-per-view event of all time. It takes place November 12th from Madison Square Garden and is headlined by a super fight. UFC Featherweight Champion of the world, the notorious Conor McGregor, moves up one weight class and 10 pounds to challenge lightweight champion of the world, Eddie Alvarez, in an attempt to simultaneously hold two divisions gold straps. Now, neither guy has defended their respective belt, but it truly is champion versus champion. I already know you're hyped about it, so let's get right into the matchup, starting with the tail of the tape. Eddie Alvarez is 28-4. Conor McGregor is 20-3. Where I want to focus our attention is that they are both the same height, but McGregor, even though he's moving up a weight class, has a 5-inch reach advantage. He almost doubles up on strikes landed per minute with more accuracy, but he absorbs about 1.7 more strikes per minute than Eddie Alvarez. The one thing that should not surprise you whatsoever is that Eddie Alvarez averages 4 takedowns per fight, and something that might surprise you is Conor McGregor has decent takedown defense down there at 70%. Something we can't see on this tail of the tape, and something that we're going to talk about in the stylistic matchup portion of the video, is that Eddie Alvarez is an orthodox fighter. Conor McGregor, well known as a southpaw. Let's move into a couple of intangibles that cannot be measured on the tail of the tape, starting with their mental fortitude. Conor McGregor is known for talking a whole bunch of trash to his opponent, getting in their head and getting them to perhaps be too tense when they enter the octagon. He was able to do it against Dustin Poirier and Jose Aldo, but he was unable to do it to Nate Diaz, and I think that he'll be unable to do it to Eddie Alvarez because Eddie too has some really strong mental fortitude. Next thing we need to talk about is their fight IQ. Eddie Alvarez is willing to have a somewhat boring contest and grind out a victory if he must do that, like he did against Anthony Pettis. Conor McGregor is smart enough to bring in training partners specifically for each one of his opponents and then implement a game plan and not get baited into certain scenarios that might be very dangerous for him. So both these guys have some fantastic mental fortitude, and both of them have high fight IQs. Let's move into the stylistic matchup portion of the video. Eddie Alvarez loves circling close to the fence, and he changes direction a lot. As for his striking technique, he throws hands almost exclusively, but he does have a variable skill set. When he will open up that tool chest of skills is usually when he has his opponent hurt, and that's also when he's the most dangerous. He mostly throws wide punches, but he will occasionally throw some kicks and straight punches as well. But mostly what he's going to be doing is throwing hooks to the body and hooks to the head. His most dangerous striking technique is a double hook combination where he throws the left hook first to get his opponent to raise their guard up, and then he will throw a right hook that will go right around that guard and bop them in the melon. It's what started his finish of Rafael dos Anjos, and he hurt Donald Cowboy Cerrone with it in the 3rd round of his UFC debut. In order to set up his striking, he throws out a lot of level change fakes and level changes, which are extremely effective because it's perhaps his best asset, and it might be his weapon of choice in this fight, and that is his tenacious wrestling. He has attempted a total of 34 takedowns in just 4 UFC fights. That number is staggering. And although his percentage of landed takedowns is kind of low, that speaks to how unrelenting he is with that aspect of his game. Which brings us right into Conor McGregor. Perhaps the biggest criticism of the Notorious is that up until this main event, he has yet to fight a high-level wrestler who had a full fight camp to prepare for him. We mentioned it on the tail of the tape that he has stopped about 70% total takedowns in his UFC career, but when he fought Chad Mendes, he was taken down 4 times in just 10 minutes. One of those takedowns happened at the very beginning of the fight. Another weak spot in Conor McGregor's game is that he has some poor cardio. When he fought Nate Diaz the second time, he was turning his back and running away from Nate in order to try to catch his breath. Just 8 minutes and 30 seconds into that fight. But let's talk about some of Conor's places where he excels, because he didn't get to this point in the sport by just running his mouth. McGregor's attack can be typified by the left hand shot. But further than that, it's his ability to set up that left straight and to get his opponents to put their head where it needs to be for him to land it cleanly. He does a lot of things like throwing a hook kick against Dustin Poirier at the very beginning of the fight. And the same thing, very beginning of the fight, throwing a spinning back kick against Diego Brandao. Occasionally, he unleashes some capoeira-style kicks, but he's more than just a headhunter. He also uses hooks to the body and snap kicks to the body that sap his opponent's energy and gets them to drop their hands. All of that gets his opponents to think about more than just that left hand. On top of that, he's a master of timing, spacing, and angles. He gets guys to come into his strike zone by putting his right hand out there, drawing them in, taking an outside angle, and then firing that left straight down the pipe, just like how he knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. Last, and yeah, probably least, Conor has underrated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and we mentioned it for the third time now, he has decent takedown defense. Where they are similar, once again, as we mentioned on the tail of the tape, is that both of these guys have had a lot of success against guys who fight out of the opposite stances they do. We mentioned that Eddie Alvarez is an orthodox fighter, and he has had a lot of success against southpaws. Speaking of Rafael dos Anjos and Anthony Showtime Pettis, Conor McGregor fights out of a southpaw stance, and most of his victories and vast success has been against orthodox fighters. They also both eat a lot of punches. Conor McGregor eats about 1.7 more per minute, once again referring to the tail of the tape, but both guys are hit a lot. To me, who will win this matchup boils down to two major questions. Can Eddie Alvarez survive the ultra-powerful left hands that Conor will land in the first 7 minutes? And can Conor overcome the difficult stylistic matchup that Eddie Alvarez presents in this fight? Tell me if you're picking McGregor or Alvarez in the comment section down below. I'm picking McGregor via KO or TKO in under 10 minutes, but if you're picking Alvarez, I in no way think that you are wrong. Immediately after this main event, I will be doing a live post-fight show on MMA Mania's Facebook page. Until then, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you after UFC 205. Namaste.